Doubtful Conversations with Ireti Bakare-Yusuf.
People need to be very careful. There's a friend of mine that has been trafficked for how many years now. I'm an educated person from an office. She just met a child, they went for education, and like that's how she was trafficked.
People are afraid to seek or ask the right question because they're afraid of surgery. I call it 2 F's that affects women with fibroids. Fear and fund.
When you have a child less than 12 years, as a househelp, it's child trafficking already.
Of course.
Child trafficking. So you shouldn't have a househelp that is less than 12 years.
Tune in to Doubtful Conversations with Ireti Bakare-Yusuf every Friday from 1 to 2:30 p.m. right here on your number one station for talk, 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
Hello, my listeners. How are you doing? I know it's quick, it's fast. I'm here again. We're together. So today, I want us to talk about us. Yes, we talk about Nigeria. We celebrate our culture. You know, we talk about all the other things that's about us. But today, once again, I want us to focus on us. By us, I mean our consumer rights vis-a-vis our medical, or should I say, yes, our health industry. Okay, now, I have with me 2 guests today, both very distinguished. I'm grateful to both of them because they've actually had to squeeze time out of their schedule to be here for you and I, for all of us, in order to educate us better. So this is one of those shows where you're going to have to sit back. Chief Mrs., you need to sit back. Sit back, listen very, very carefully. Now, I have with me Mr. Babatunde Irukera, who is the CEO of the FCCPC. I know it's a mouthful. I've been practicing it too. That is the FCCPC, which stands for the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Council. Now, there's 2 key words in there that I want you to write down and think about as we discuss the show. Consumer protection. That is you and I. That's what consumer protection means. We'll go into it much later. And then I have with me Dr. Olayinka Atilola, who is from the NMA and he's the president. I'm just going to get his exact title because his title is actually, aside from being a doctor, his title is critical in these things. He's the, hold on, I'm going to get it for you now. The president, wow, where are we? Is the president of, right, there it is, hold on. His exact title I want to get because that will tell you why he's here and why it's so important to have him. Right, he's the president of the Medical Jurisprudence Committee of the NMA, or should I say chairman of the Medical Jurisprudence Committee of the Lagos State branch of the NMA. Ordinarily, I'll just call him Dr. Olayinka, so that's all you need to remember. But that title is critical because why? So you have 2 bridges here, or should I say you have 2 separate islands. You have the Consumer Protection Council, who are there to protect us, what we buy, the services we get, you name the sector, that's what they focus on, to ensure you and I get the quality that we need. And then you have the NMA. The NMA is the overall authority over our medical sectors, so doctors, dentists, nurses, they have the overall authority over that. And they've also been around for a very long time. Now, if you've been listening, if you've been following, recent events, especially with regards to Mrs. Kweju Boma, you may have seen a hearing that was televised on TV a couple of days ago, which was chaired and organized by the FCCPC. Now, you may have heard other things. Those other things you've heard, one of which is that Premier didn't turn up, one of which is that the NMA may or may not have, which is in inverted commas, instructed Premier not to turn up. But why are we discussing this today? The reason we're discussing this, as you know, we always want to find that bridge that connects us, not the one that separates us. So today's conversation is about how do we build that bridge? Where are the sort of pain points and what the separation? Most importantly, where is the marriage? And then if there is no marriage, let's find the marriage. Are you ready? Okay. Now, I'll be opening the lines later. So don't think I'm going to forget you. Of course I'm not. You'll be able to drop your questions later. But we're going to have quite a good conversation today. So let me welcome Mr. Babatunde Irukera. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon.
You've been literally on, TV everywhere this week, a couple of weeks ago since the whole Peju Ugboma, should I say the sad loss of Peju Ugboma. Now, here's the thing. I always knew there was a commission that protected, sort of our rights, our consumer rights. But until recently, most people didn't know that the FCCPC existed. In fact, we had one of your staff that joined us, a few weeks ago, right? A few weeks ago. So what I want you to tell us very quickly is, how do you protect our consumer rights before we go into the other parts?
Thank you for the question. And so there are three key ways of, three key ways. First is prevention. In many respects, the vast majority of the work we do is to prevent a violation of the rights or injury to consumers. And we do that just by regulating the markets. And when I say markets, I'm talking about goods that are produced, things people manufacture. I'm also speaking about services that people use, whether it's transportation, so if it's medical, if it's legal, if it's telecommunications, if it's electricity, banking. And so we're constantly looking from a prevention standpoint. The second way we do it is to use investigations to make sure that things are going right, or when things go wrong, we can address them in the way they should. And the third way we do our work, which is probably what people are more conversant with, is complaint resolution.
Right.
When people are displeased with something they've bought or something they've paid for or a service they've received, they complain. And we would attempt as best as we can to resolve the complaints. Those are the broad ways that we do our work. In all of these, there are all kinds of
course,
different issues also.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Right, Dr. Olayinka, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I'm happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you, and we're actually happy to have you even more so on Skype, given the unfortunate explosion that happened yesterday. You would have been stuck in traffic. So, yes, this is great. Right, so you are a member. Before we even come to what you do as chairman of the jurisprudence, you are a member of the NMA, correct? Right.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, when I go onto your website, one of the things that I learned again about the NMA is that, of course, you are the overall authority, if you're like the governing body over the whole sort of medical sector, both private and government. Is that correct? Every doctor that works within that.
Yes. Let me make some distinctions.
Please do.
The Nigerian Medical Association is the umbrella body of all doctors in Nigeria.
Right.
Be it in the private sector or the public sector. And it is a professional body that has come together first to promote the practice of a good practice of medicine, to protect the interest of the patient as well as that of the doctors. But we also have a Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, which is like the regulatory body, of which, of course, NMA is a part and parcel of the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, but to the extent of regulation, MDCN regulate, while NMA is the professional body that protects the interests of patients and that of the doctors, and as well advance the cause of good practice of medicine.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Now, of course, you're aware of the discussion, the recent loss of Mrs. Peju Ugboma. And of course, as a result of that, and this is not the first time, and some people can accuse us when I say us consumers, us Nigerians, and especially women, of panicking when these things happen. But I can assure you that I think it was probably about a month, perhaps 6 weeks ago, I had to do 2 consecutive shows about the medical industry in Nigeria. Number one, to give people a peace of mind that yes, it's okay, we can survive. But number two, for us to learn how it works, what options are available to us. Right. Now, what I want to ask you is, in the case of Mrs. Kweju Uboma, there was a hearing, a public hearing that was held, I think it was on Tuesday and Wednesday, where the NMA did not attend, and where we were also informed or believed that Premier did not attend because NMA told them not to. What comments do you have to say on that? Bearing in mind that, of course, some people listening are patients of Premier, right? But they're patients of every other hospital as well. So how can you give us a comment on that? And to follow up on that is, why would you not? Are you not working from the point of view of the consumer, or are you only working to protect the doctors? Go ahead, sir.
So thank you very much, and I'm aware that Mr. Irukera is also on this call.
Correct.
I must first congratulate him for the good work that he has been doing with the FCCPC. And I think that in recent time, I have personally had to check some information, and I've seen that in a way, he has actually been doing a lot in that agency, and also he no doubt means well for the system. He's a rare public officer, I must say. But having said that, what the Nigerian Medical Association is saying in a nutshell is that, you see, they say that the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Okay.
I do not have any doubt that the intentions of Mr. Irukera is noble. However, he has adopted methods, strategies, as well as areas of jurisdictions that are not as straightforward as he may have perceived it. So if you are holding a public inquiry from the consumer's perspective, I understand that. But the technical issue with healthcare and clinical services is that if we say an outcome is not favorable, that outcome of clinical intervention can be you get well with complications, or you die. These are outcomes.
Okay.
And these are outcomes that are well established in the practice. When the last 2 outcomes happen, that is, you get well with complications or you die, there are 2 possibilities. It is possible that the doctors have done something negligent, or they are practiced beyond their training to the extent of causing harm, or it's an act of God. These are 2 possibilities.
Right.
Because again, there's a reason why hospitals have mortuaries. If people don't die, they won't have. So those are act of God or something you did wrong.
Yes.
And before we can say that the rights of the deceased have been taken violently or have been trampled upon, we first, unlike in other areas, we first have to establish whether those doctors, their processes and their procedure, whether it is standard and whether they practice within their competence. Now, determination of that is what we are saying. Determination of that is not within the purview of the FPCCC.
Okay.
Or FCC.
FFCCPC.
So if we cannot determine that in the public inquiry,
yeah.
The question will be, what will be the outcome of that public inquiry, other than further drag the name of the medical profession in the public domain as some place where people just go and die. Like I said somewhere yesterday, patients are in the hospital as we speak, and patients get well every day. when something goes wrong, yes, we must look into it. We must look for a way of ensuring that we correct that. But that is the medical profession is not an unregulated profession. It is not an uncontrolled profession. There are agencies already established for those purposes.
Okay.
That by the time FCCPC is going to that arena, we just be having multiple agencies, some with no technical or legal resource to do what they want to do.
Okay. If there's something you said, right, there's something you said that I want to pick up on because, and I'm also going to ask Mr. Irukera the same thing. When I went on the FCCPC website, one of the things that stood out to me was collaboration. They collaborate. Now, also, when I watched the review, the public hearing, one of the things that Mr. Tunde Irukera said, and I think you also said it this morning when he was on Arise, was that they collaborate with the MDCN. Now, if they had informed the MDCN of this or of this hearing, did you guys, did the NMA or the MDCN, did they at any time raise an objection directly to the FCCPC? Mr. Irukera, I'm going to come to you after that, but I would like you to answer that, Dr. Olayinka, before I go to Mr. Irukera.
So thank you very much. I may not be able to speak for the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, but I can speak for the Lagos State branch of NMA.
Okay.
Not now, not including even in the past. The Lagos NMA has registered their reservations about every incident that happened in the hospital becoming a public inquiry by FCCPC.
Oh, why is that? Let me come in there. That's very critical.
Please, let me make this point. Just like you said, in the act that established FCCPC, there is an allowance for encouragement and collaboration with the agencies that are with professional associations to develop and enforce quality standards. If that is what FCCPC is extending to NMA and MDCN, there will not be any reason why they will not apply. But if what they are extending is that, look, I want to do the work of medical inquiry, I can understand if NMA or MDCN is saying, no, you may have good intentions, but you are stepping out of your boundary. I've given one example earlier. If there is a plane crash today, FCCPC, people will die, but FCCPC will not be the first body on the site of a plane crash. There will be an accident investigation to determine whether that plane crash is an act of God or a negligent procedure by the pilot or the airline.
Okay.
And it is when all these are being established that FCCPC can say, in any case, the consumer rights of those people who are in that plane has been breached. This is what we are saying, that agencies should understand where their boundaries are and stay there, or else we just have a chaotic situation on our hands.
Okay. Now, we're about to go on a break in a few minutes, but there was something you said, which I will come back on, because when we come back from break, I'd like Mr. Irukera to respond to everything you've said so far, especially with regards to collaboration and what you've said about overreaching, or I'm paraphrasing it, overreaching their rights. I'd like him to come back on that. Is that okay?
Yeah.
We're going on a break. Right about now? Right about now. We'll be back, everyone. Stay seated. This is interesting.
More conversation, more talk, more right after this.
I'm the truth. You better
Apollo, my guy. How every now?
Benjo, what thing now? That is money you just to call me.
See, 9 Mobile, they give me call bonus while I finish. Now all my guys go here.
If you never recharge your 9 Mobile line for 40 days or more, recharge 200 naira and above, and we go summer you 6 times your recharge and double data bonus.
Apollo, my guy.
Benjo, see, I go block you now. I go block you now. You go see him.
Terms and conditions day. 9 Mobile.
The European club football season is over, but football never sleeps. Enter the UEFA European Football Championship. The pandemic could only delay, but never deny the fans the excitement they crave as the Euros take center stage. It's Euro 2020 in 2021, a tournament with a difference, with scenes all over the European continent, traversing state lines and capitals, from Rome to Baku, St. Petersburg, Amsterdam, Bucharest, Glasgow, Copenhagen, Seville, Munich, and London. The coverage is global and the cast nationwide.
They seem to keep hold of the ball, see so much of the ball, but at the end of the day, they tend to do little or nothing with the ball.
Floated into the box. It's in.
A player who's been having a renaissance after season.
He connected to the pass like a socket. Fired the shot like a rocket.
From no other person but Rafael Varane.
What they want to do is sit back, where your weaknesses, and then when they get the ball, they counter-attack you.
It was a brilliant piece of play by Karim Benzema. But they decide against that counter-attack and go all the way back.
That's beautiful. Trent Alexander-Arnold, 38 meters. This is your goal of the week.
When you defend, you can defend for 91 minutes, and just for 1 minute, everything will change.
He completes his hat trick. He's in the pursuit of perfection.
Best days are behind him already, and the young managers have taken up the mantle.
Covering every blade of grass for a full month from 11th June to 11th July 2021 on Nigeria's #1 radio station for sports and talk, Nigeria Info. Reach out for sponsorship and advertising. Euro 2020 on Nigeria Info. It's live football, just the way you like it.
Apollo, my guy. How every now?
Benjo, what thing now? That is money you just to call me.
See, 9 Mobile, they give me call bonus while I finish. Now all my guys go here.
If you never recharge your 9 Mobile line for 40 days or more, recharge 200 naira and above, and we go summer you 6 times your recharge and double data bonus.
Apollo, my guy.
Benjo, see, I go block you now. I go block you now. You go see him.
Terms and conditions day. 9 Mobile.
You are listening to your #1 station for talk.
Your #1 station for talk.
99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
This is Downfall Conversations with Ireti Bakare.
And we're back. Right, so Dr. Olayinka, you said quite a few things before we went on break earlier, which I think I'm going to give Mr. Irukera the opportunity to respond to. So talk to us about that collaboration and also about the accusation that the FCCPC is overreaching its limits in this case.
Thank you very much. And first I want to thank Dr. Atilola for his extremely generous and kind words. I appreciate that. And his articulation is consistent with his role as chairman of jurisprudence.
That's right, jurisprudence.
Yeah. But having said that, the challenge that he raises is not particularly new. All consumer protection authorities all over the world ultimately always get bashed for interloping in different things. So that's okay. That's how it must be. The one thing I'd like to say is that overlapping jurisdiction and regulation is not necessarily chaotic. It's not even a confusion. It's not a failure. It's actually a strategy. And it happens everywhere in the world.
It's a strategy.
It is a strategy to have overlapping regulations in many cases. And the way to look at it is whatever a society holds very dear, you would find multiple regulators looking at it. And so take, for instance, just your food industry, just the standard for food. You've got the SON.
Yes.
You've got NAFDAC.
Yes.
You've got FCCPC. It's typical.
Yeah.
It's completely, it's what it is.
Yeah.
In technology, you've got NITA, you've got FCCPC, you've got the technology acquisition and NOTAP. It's anything that's important to any society. In the world, you would have multiple regulators.
Right.
One of the most specialized industries in the world is aviation, like Dr. Atilola rightly said. And in the United States, if something goes wrong, you've got the Better Business Bureau, you've got consumer protection authorities in different states, you've got the FTC, and you've got the FAA, you've got the NTSB.
Right.
And so it's typical. Now, does it mean that they're looking for the same outcomes or the same thing? The answer is no.
Okay.
However, is it the case that similar facts, the evidence that applies in one, can possibly apply in another? Absolutely. And so take, for instance, he gives the example of an air crash. I'm an aviation lawyer. And so the AIB's investigation is an absolutely no-fault investigation. As a matter of fact, the AIB's investigation is not useful to anyone for anything except for improvement. You cannot implead the AIB's investigation in court. You cannot take the outcome of that investigation to a court of law and say, the AIB found that the pilots got it wrong. And so because of that finding is no. The conventions are very clear that the AIB's investigation is absolutely no evidentiary value. But the reason why flying is safer today is because of the AIB's investigation.
Right.
Because they periodically check and that improves flight. By the way, using the example Dr. Atilola gives, the AIB doesn't license pilots. Pilots, are just an accident and investigation, independent accident and investigation authority. It's the Civil Aviation Authority that licenses pilots. So the AIB is not a group of pilots or a regulatory authority for pilots or an association of pilots investigating the conduct of pilots. That's not what they are.
Okay, so talking of investigation, that brings me on to my next question, Dr. Olayinka, because we run out of time so very, very quickly. Can you confirm if the MDCN is investigating the death of Mrs. Peju Ugboma?
Well, one of the things, like I said earlier, I may not be able to speak for the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria. However, I have some information that I can share.
Okay.
I'm aware that MDCN is still of the view that they are yet to receive such petition. Now, sometimes, let me land.
Okay.
Sometimes people confuse some of these agencies. The Nigerian Medical Association, the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria. I can speak that Lagos State branch of NMA received a letter from the lawyers of the Ugoma's family. However, that will not suffice for a petition. And by the act that set up the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, they do not investigate if there is no official complaint. For reason of the fact that if there is no official complaint, you must even understand what the issues are, that this is what has happened, and then I want you to investigate and they step in. To the best of the information I have, it doesn't appear that the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria has actually received a petition. And a petition in this case is not just a letter. A petition is a sworn affidavit.
Okay.
That is what the act says. Because there are a lot of frivolous petitioners. So they want you to put it in the form of an affidavit.
Okay.
To state exactly what your grievances are, and then they will start investigating, because the MDCN their tribunal actually enjoy the status of a high court.
Okay.
And they follow all the procedures of a high court.
Okay, excellent.
If I
Mr.
may,
Irukera, yes, as FCCPC.
And that's a very knowledgeable statement from Dr. Atilola. And that absolutely shows what the MDCN is about.
Right.
It's about the dissatisfaction you have with your professional.
Right.
But now with the FCCPC, our role is to be out there with or without, we don't have any formalities. You can reach us by Twitter, by Facebook, and we even proceed without necessarily having a complaint. And that's what Dr. Atilola said is exactly what happens with respect to discipline. It must be referred from somewhere. For the legal profession, a client must complain, or another lawyer complains, or even the court complains. And so they think there are ways of referral, but the disciplinary authority of the bar doesn't just look around and say, some people are saying some things, let's just go check. But we do, because we must protect people. And that shows that we're not trying to discipline any doctor. We're trying to find what has gone wrong. And with respect to our cooperation with MDCN, we wrote them. And understand this, it is quite possible that something went wrong without anybody doing wrong. And Dr. Atilola mentioned that. And so if something goes wrong and a doctor hasn't violated his ethical obligations, what are the remedies? Should whoever has suffered any injury on account of that conduct, should that person have absolutely no remedy? Where will they go? Now, it is possible that sometimes when something goes wrong, a doctor has done wrong. We don't even find whether doctors have done wrong. As a matter of fact, if after our investigation there are all kinds of indications that say one doctor or the other, all we do is just refer that to the MDCN.
Right.
We've done our information gathering. This is what we found. And many times our investigation, for instance, we had one against the main hospital in Lagos last year. I'll tell you the quick things that came out of that investigation. Please train people more. Make sure that from security all the way through your entire value chain, everybody understands what an emergency is. Because a patient came in to the hospital, the security man says, wait, let me go inside and call somebody. The person comes back and says, oh, I have to go and get the doctor. You're losing time.
Yes.
Secondly, we agreed that in referral cases, at least provide some information to the referring, to the location where this person is being transferred. Thirdly, patients should not arrive and be examined on the floor at 7 p.m. in the parking lot outside the hospital. None of this is about a doctor's professional conduct or not.
Indeed.
But all of this came out
It's
in
about
the evidence.
process and procedure.
Exactly. And all of this came out in the evidence that was provided, including by the doctors.
Okay.
And the doctors came, the MDCN knew about that. As a matter of fact, those findings were immediately sent to the MDCN. Not just that, we also made a finding that the state, both at federal and state level, need to get involved in emergency response. That is, providing ambulance services, especially maybe in public-private partnerships or as part of health insurance. Because one of the problems there was that you had a patient who was stabbed in a violent crime and there was a police report requirement. If this person had been brought in by proper ambulance service, by paramedics, the question of police report would have been diminished.
Absolutely.
And the Attorney General, in opening this recent investigation, said one of the things that has come out of that investigation, which Lagos State has now written a bill and is waiting to be signed into law, is a victim's right that includes these issues. That's what we're doing.
Absolutely.
We might not be able to bring back Mrs. Uboma, but we can prevent this situation from occurring again.
Indeed.
And we're doing it from the consumer side. That's all we're doing.
Indeed.
And so the NMA is an association. It's not a law. It's not a regulator. I mean, any doctor that didn't comply with the summons of the FCCPC based on counsel, directive, warning, or guidance from their association, when they are prosecuted in court, I'm hopeful that the association can be the defense. Matter of fact, let's escalate.
Is that an evidence? Is that conduct of the evidence?
I don't know what
that they didn't turn
I don't
up
know
at the
what the
public
quality
review.
of the evidence would be to. We didn't turn up as association asked us not to. With respect to the MDCN also, and we're going to have a conversation. I mean, it's an important thing to have a conversation about what happened because we have a good relationship.
Yes.
But it will be interesting whether a doctor can, before the court, or anybody can, before the court, say that some other authority asked me not to comply with the law.
It shows a world. Right, let me stop you there. Now, Olayinka, Dr. Atilola, earlier you said that there's a difference between sending a letter, which you said that the Lagos chapter had received, to sending an affidavit. Is that correct? Is that correct? Now, whilst I was preparing for this show, whilst I was preparing for this show, from my investigations and everything, I know that the victim's husband sent a letter to you. Now, he sent another reminder 2 weeks later, but nobody has responded to him. Should the NMA or the MCDN or whoever not have written back to him and said, look, thank you for your letter. However, in order for us to take your complaints further, we would like you to resend it as an affidavit. Could that not have happened? And did that happen? And is that going to happen?
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think I should quickly just clarify a few things.
Yes, please.
One of the things that I said is that the Nigerian Medical Association is an association. I never debated that. And the Nigerian Medical Association will not ask any doctor to disobey the directive of any federal agency.
Interesting.
However, the directive that came did not come from the Nigerian Medical Association. The Nigerian Medical Association sought application from the Medical and Dental Council, the agency that regulates and regulate medical practice in Nigeria. When NMA sought counsel from them, it was the Medical and Dental Council that issued the directive that because there are codes of conduct of a medical doctor, some of which the FCCPC may not have been mindful of in the course of conducting their activity. So, and when people write to NMA have not only responded. NMA set up some kind of I won't call it fact finding, but some kind of committee to look into the issue that has come. And part of the activities of that committee was that we met with the Ugoma's family and we educated them on what is the procedure for registering their concern.
Right.
So we were not shielding our members. We are only saying, please don't go the wrong way, go the right way. And to also speak to what Mr. Irukera have said, I agree with him that multiple agencies are put within the same domain for a reason, so that there can be checks, balances. However, I'm sure you also agree with me that there is also a reason why specific agencies were created for specific purposes. If the intention was for us to just have one omnibus agency to supervise everything that have to do with use of service in Nigeria, we won't have the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, we won't have the NCA, we won't have the FAAN, we won't have the AIB, we won't have NAFDAC, we won't have NEMA. But then, what the job of FCCPC is to ensure that in carrying out their own activities from the consumer perspective, they are not encroaching on what an act of the National Assembly has given to another body. That is where I believe that FCCPC and MDCN and NMA can work together within the health sector. But I will appreciate FCCPC initiating some kind of stakeholders meeting between MDC and NMA and themselves, so that we can delineate boundaries, we can discuss modalities. Yeah. There is no agency that will sit down and they will think that you are encroaching into their area of jurisdiction without talking. But then, if we both have some kind of understanding, some kind of procedure, some kind of like how to manage
a handshake, yes,
jurisdictions, probably we will not have some of these problems. Like I said, I believe that FCCPC have good intentions, but going about this way, there is no way there won't be no agency. If FCCPC enter the airport today and want to be conducting inquiries into something that happened in the airport, I don't expect the NCCA to say, yeah, because they are FCCPC. No, the NCCA will ask them to hold on a bit. And they ask some of his own staff not to attend such meeting. This thing will happen. And I believe that if FCCPC can come down and let us sit down, work out a modality whereby there won't be frictions between agencies. We will do this country a lot of good. Because I've seen a public officer with good intentions. NBCN does not have bad intentions either. Doctors' names have been struck off the register several times. People have been suspended from this practice. It is not as if NBCN is sleeping. However, if we want to have multiple agencies working within a cross-cutting arena, let us sit down and draw our boundaries.
Excellent, Dr. Olayinka. Now, this is the thing. When I was watching the, and please, Mr. Irukera, come in if I'm wrong. One of the things that Mr. Irukera said when I was watching the live panel was that they have in the past had the sort of collaboration that you're talking about. That this is not the first time. Mr. Irukera, come in.
That's exactly the case. I mean, what responsible public officer would put a whole team, get people from across different agencies in Abuja and then in Lagos State, and come and assemble people here not knowing what he's doing, not having engaged the primary regulator? What happened this week is exactly the template that happened last year. And speaking about that, an executive of the Lagos NMA, Dr. Oseni, was on the panel last year.
Do you know Dr. Oseni, Dr. Olayinka?
I know Dr. Oseni.
Right. So he worked with
NMA
yes, he worked with the FCCPC.
He was the chairman of Lagos State branch of NMA at that time.
Yes. Right. So he worked with the FCCPC last year.
He represented the NMA on exactly a similar panel.
Okay.
He was on the panel. Let me
Go ahead.
inform you that I was supposed to be on that panel.
I wish you were.
But after the attendance of Dr. Oseni at the panel, the Nigerian Medical Association felt that, look, this is not what we thought we were going for. When they said there is going to be some kind of inquiry, it was in that panel that it was discovered that some of the areas of dabbling that FCCP was having at that point was a bit outside of their brief.
Right.
And it was after, see, you could go
we're
to a panel.
We're hearing this for the very first time for a panel that occurred in March 2020.
That people started getting a bit uncomfortable. That's the point.
Right.
So the fact that we have attended in the past does not validate it. It only means that I've attended this radio show today. If in the course of this radio show, I realize that it doesn't appear that what we thought was going to be happening is what, or what we thought was going to be the aftermath is not what is the aftermath. You may call me again and I won't attend, and then you will say for somebody I've attended before. The fact that somebody attended before does not vitiate the fact that the issues at hand is that the question I wanted you to help me to ask the chairman
Please
of
tell me.
The executive vice chairman is that what exactly is the resources that FCCPC will have used to determine that in this case, what happened in Premier Hospital was constitutes a negligence or a malpractice or a violation of the consumer right. For instance, I can remind him that in the FCCPC tribunal, I look at the composition of the FCPCC tribunal, and you will see the intendment of those who wrote that act from the composition. The chairman of that panel is a legal practitioner, and they are supposed to draw experts from consumer protection law, commerce, industry, public affairs, economics, finance, business administration. If that tribunal was intended to be addressing the technical area of healthcare, this is FCCPC focus is purely in the area of business.
Okay.
And I do not believe that clinical services cannot be commodified. It cannot, because again, when you say you are not satisfied with an outcome, what a businessman would think is a fair poor outcome, a doctor may not see it as an unfair poor outcome.
Right, Dr. Olayinka.
That's why the MDCN tribunal is headed by a doctor, and everybody there is a doctor. Those who understand the nuances of the profession. That is where we feel that if we collaborate, we will be able to both understand the boundaries of each other, and there might still be role for everybody. But without that, we are going to be having this kind of head-on collision all the time.
Okay, I've got to say something though. As a consumer, when you said that the medical industry is not a business, I can tell you I've paid loads of money to go into hospital and I've had bills. In fact, I currently pay for medical health care, right? So somebody must be collecting my money, right, doctor?
Yes,
but I'll come
absolutely.
back. There you go.
So,
okay, there you go. Right, Dr. Irukera.
To address the questions Dr. Atilola has asked me, what resources would we use? I'd ask Dr. Atilola, when he complains about his electricity service, what resources am I going to use? When he complains about an airline service, what resources am I going to use?
Mm-hmm.
When people go to court and dispute medical malpractice, dispute admiralty, complex aviation issues, what resources do the courts use? The judges are trained in law. That's all they've got. And if you look at the panel, look at who was on the panel. Lagos State Ministry of Health, Federal Government Ministry of Health, Lagos State Healthcare Facilities and Accreditation Agency, NMA. That's of what? About rule of law initiative of the presidency. That's the resource. And by the way, we had experts, professors of medicine, consultant gynecologists, hospital process reviewers, hospital utilization specialists, experts who would pay an incredible amount of money per hour for their time. We're not, what does he think we were doing there? Just going to sit around and then eat, we would use their own respected experts. And with respect to the point he makes about the NMA becoming concerned after a hearing that occurred in March 2020, and for me to be learning about that concern in June of 2021, after not even immediately they were invited.
Yeah.
For the MDCN too, the NMA didn't engage the MDCN right after that hearing. The MDCN has never written to say, well, this is what happened in that previous hearing. We have a problem with it. The MDCN has received the outcome, the interim report. We're not aware. And so when people say we need to collaborate more with the MDCN, I say absolutely, but do not portray that there is a lack of alignment. No, the only thing that has happened is that this one time, in Premier's case, what happened before didn't happen. I'm a lawyer, I'm a litigator.
Right.
It looks like a duck, it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, you're calling it a chicken.
Okay. Dr. Olayinka, we're about to go on a 1 minute break, and I'm really conscious of time. That's the problem with this show. But when we come back, I'd like you to answer a question for me, because I need us to move on. Now, there is a perception that the MDCN.
You are listening to your number one station for talk.
99.3 Nigeria Info.
99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
In the beginning was the word, and the word is me. Cause I'm the truth. You better understand I'm nothing compared to you. And I've been chilling, grinding on the low. Oh, my, you don't see things more than you can know. So when you see me trying to move my life not overdose. No be say it's joke. I put my life in life for my melody. Oh, they say got me. I'm alive. Kill shit for me. All you do is book at me.
Leading the conversation.
We black people must understand what is really going on.
Import milk, sugar, toothpaste, handkerchief, pencil. We don't make.
Presenting the facts and access to pour out your mind.
Every time you bring in a shipload of rice, you also bring in a shipload of unemployment because you are transferring your wealth to sustain other economies.
So let's look at an Africa that must be free to take care of herself, an Africa that's free from exploitation in broad daylight.
They need jobs. They are children. They've graduated. They've come back home to begin a second child because there's no factory to employ them.
99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
Apollo, my guy. How every now?
Benjo, what is now? That is money you just to call me.
See, 9 Mobile, they give me call bonus while I finish. Now all my guys go here.
If you never recharge your 9 Mobile line for 40 days or more, recharge 200 naira and above, and we go summer you 6 times your recharge and double data bonus.
Apollo, my guy.
Benjo, see, I go block you now. I go block you now. You go see him.
Terms and conditions day. 9 Mobile.
We Entertainment, in partnership with Riverside Productions, bring you this comedy blockbuster, One Lagos Night. Starring Frank Donga.
That place where they put motor. Garage. No be a jabon stop.
Eniola Badmus, Aliunuhu, Chris Okabwe, Obolo, and lots more. Directed by Ekene Som Mekuye.
God, I swear to God, if after 7 days you don't answer me, I'll go meet the devil. Until they talk. Read the word, just what's for the devil himself.
Premieres May 29th on Netflix.
Meanwhile, landlord carry come. Everything bring. What you say one? Check out, I know be quick not to do that. Based on rent, no carry our look come on.
Which can't be this now? First, na job matter. Second, na that matter.
One Lagos Night. Anticipate.
ShopRite's Big Red Carnival is back. And this year, we're big on low prices, big on savings, with great deals on products like 6 475-gram Power Pasta Spaghetti for 1,599 naira 99 kobo, and 2 Nestle 900-gram Golden Mon cereal packs at 2,999 naira 99 kobo.
Plus, you could stand to win 50% off your grocery shopping. Simply buy 3 participating products to qualify with ShopRite's Big Red Carnival. T's and C's apply.
All prices valid till the 27th of June 2021. ShopRite. Lower prices you can trust always.
This is Downfall Conversations with Ireti Bakare.
And we're back. Sorry, I was trying to squeeze in a question before we went on break, but of course the system has a better idea than I did. Now, Dr. Olayinka, I was going to ask you before we went on break that there's a perception that the MDCN was slow to act in the case of Mrs. Kweju Uboma. That they were slow to act, that in fact, the only thing that jolted them into response or into any kind of action was the FCCPC. We've got 3 minutes before we go on to the 2 o'clock news. Would you like to comment on that, please?
Yes, I will. I will comment on that. I will quickly respond to one of the things that Mr. Irukera said, which is about the fact that they have the technical resources, they can invite all the experts and all of that. Well, if they do, I appreciate them for that. But I'm a doctor, and you should see from my perspective. If the family of Uboma eventually petition the Medical and Dental Council, which they should, these same experts will be called again and they will sit down. So again, a doctor should not now be subjected to multiple trials, because again, there is also a jurisdiction within the court where somebody can go to. So FPPC call experts, the courts call expert, MDCN call expert, because you practiced. I think those are some of the points we are trying to make, that can we allow one agency to undo a particular technical part, which they will not need to invite anybody. They already have the structure within their own acts. But having said that, to your question of whether MDCN, now again, when I speak on MDCN, I speak as Dr. Olayinka Atilola and not as a representative of NME.
Okay.
Personally, I have always thought that there is something that we need to do better within the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria.
Okay.
MDCN Practitioner Tribunal has been established for a very long time, and the law that establishes is a very is a law that has been put in place a very long time ago, may not fit into the realities of today. We are today 250 million people. People are more enlightened. The healthcare.
Right, we're going on. We'll be back after the news.
We're back.
We're
back. We are back.
We're back on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Emergency Management Agency says #22 million naira money laundering charge. Benue Governor Samuel Otom reiterates absence of law establishing grazing routes in Nigeria, says Mr. President has no constitutional power to administer land use in the country. Nigeria to showcase culture, technology, innovation, creativity, and human excellence at biggest World Expo in Dubai. The Swiss court is set to announce a verdict in trial of former Liberian rebel leader, a commander. And our coverage of Euros 2020 continues today with Croatia playing Czech Republic at 5. Those were the headlines. It is still the Downful Conversation with Ireti Bakare-Yusuf. I'm Yvonne Ohaifo, and this is 99.3 Nigeria Info.
The news. Timely, fresh as it breaks on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Welcome back to Downful Conversations, right here on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Okay, we're back. Thanks, Yvonne. I love the way she always says my name, right? It's always so cool. Right, so as a result of the explosion yesterday, Mr. Irukera has to literally leave now. So, Dr. Olayinka, I'll come back to you. I just want him to give us some leaving words, some to wrap it all up, and actually give us, I don't know if you have any phone numbers, websites, because the lines are going crazy, but I can't answer them. And I know there's going to be lots of questions.
Well, thank you very much. And Dr. Atilola, thank you. This has been quite a robust discussion. And like I always say, with every one of these engagements, we take some learning. I completely agree that there still needs to be some more clarity, but that's not on account of any failures. That's really just how things are. They get better with time. I look forward to working with the NMA. We already work with the MDCN. I certainly look forward to strengthening the relationship. Ultimately, the one thing that should be clear is that as far as I know, and I think Dr. Atilola has reinforced that, is that we're all looking for the same thing. And that is a more robust space where protection is stronger and safety is promoted. And if we keep our eyes on those objectives, then the differences in how we approach it will be far easier to manage. It is not necessary that in trying to determine or in trying to at least address the loss of a family that we're here talking about the different ways to do it. At the end of the day, there's a victim in the middle of this who's wondering, what are these guys talking about?
Indeed, absolutely.
What are these guys talking about?
Yeah.
My mom is gone, my wife is gone,
there are two children that have lost their mother.
And
yes.
this is what is dominating the space. They're talking about who should do what or who shouldn't do what. And by the way, this conversation seems to reinforce the point that something went wrong.
Yeah.
And that's really, we need to get beyond this and go straight to that. And it won't matter to me who does it. There's a proverb that says, a man sees a snake, a woman kills it. What does it matter? The snake is dead.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, the only reason why we can do things anyhow is because it will be chaotic, like Dr. Atilola said. But there is a framework. There is a legal framework. The law is that framework. Yeah. And when there are disputes about that legal framework, the place to resolve it is not in the face of the consumers. There is there is a process. If back channel engagement can fix it, Let the judicial process fix it. Certainly not before the consumers. That undermines their confidence in everything. Government just being the least. Because here we are, this open conversation can potentially undermine confidence in healthcare or other things, even those who go to private hospital.
Yeah.
The entire subject of this investigation were interactions between an individual and a private medical practice. It has nothing to do with the government.
Right.
It is an embarrassment that it is a government agency that is facilitating an accountability in that space.
Yeah.
It is a worse embarrassment that the challenges to that accountability process is lack of clarity between supposedly institutions.
Stakeholders, yes.
Institutions,
Yes.
not just regular stakeholders, institutions.
Yeah.
The NMA is an institution, the MDCN is an institution, the FCCPC is an institution. And everybody's watching and saying, what's going
What's
on
going
here?
on? Yeah, we sure are. We sure are.
And so
We sure are.
Those are my most significant worries. And that's why, for me, with respect to consumer rights, no matter how bumpy the road is, no matter the disputes that arise in the process, I'm going to get to the end of the road.
So before you go, that was the last thing I was going to ask you. What are the next steps for the Peju Ugboma case from the FCCPC
The
point
investigation is open.
Okay.
The only thing that can restrict what we have set out to do is operation of law. We will come to the end of this investigation, and if whatever our findings are, we'll put it out there. It's not about whether we find fault or not. It's about at least people know that there was a transparency. If Mr. Ugboma can go to sleep at the end of the day knowing absolutely nobody did anything wrong, I'm not talking about whether they violated their professional ethics or not, but with respect to just taking fair, appropriate care, showing sensitivity and responsiveness, everybody did what they were doing. That's closure.
Right, so is Premier...
It doesn't matter that you find that Premier or any other one failed.
Okay.
That if you have a transparent process that concludes they didn't fail, that's closure.
Okay. I know you're going to get off the chair, but last one. So we received some information that Premier ICU has been closed by Lagos State. Can you confirm if that's true or not?
To the best of my knowledge, yes, that is true from my information. And that is an example of what happened, why the government has multiple regulators in the same space,
right?
Especially with respect to healthcare. Sometimes the work of one even catalyzes the other to move faster.
Indeed.
That's how the system works. We don't need to fight about it. There's no encroachment. There is no conflict. And there's no profession that should be so insular if it serves people and not want to be accountable through any regular mechanisms to those people that it serves. That's my last word on this.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. I hope we can have you back because we've still got so much we want to talk to you about.
Absolutely.
Mr. Irukera, is that a yes?
Yes, it is.
All right, good luck with your flight. We hope you don't miss it. If you do, I'll feel terribly guilty.
Thank you.
And it will be my producer's fault. Zainab will pay for your dinner. Right. Dr. Olayinka, you and I are still together. We've got quite a lot to cover. I know you want to respond to that. Mr. Irukera, stay listening to us, though, in the car. Right, okay. So I know you want to respond to everything Mr. Irukera said. Go ahead.
Yes, I was responding to one of your questions before
about perception. Yes.
Mix up, which is that I certainly believe that there are things that we can do better at the level of the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria. And when I say this, I'm not saying this as the chairman of the Jurisprudence Committee of Lagos NMA. I'm saying it as Dr. Olayinka Atilola, a medical practitioner who has his own concerns about what we can do better.
Yeah.
Like I said, the MDCN has struck people's name off register. The MDCN has suspended doctors from practicing. This is not something that is new. However, we are 250 million people. Medical practice itself has exploded in terms of possibilities. We need to upgrade.
Yeah.
So I believe that rather than having this central medical tribunal in Abuja, I believe that the law that established that tribunal can be tinkered with so that we can have states, if not regional jurisdictions, such that if there is a matter that happens in Ikorodu in Lagos, the tribunal can actually sit in Lagos to listen to it. If there is an issue that happened in Ibadan, a tribunal should be able to sit in Ibadan, or at best sit in somewhere close. So I believe, and also I believe that even when they say that you must have a sworn affidavit, I believe that if you swear that affidavit and you scan it, there should be a point where you just make a click and you upload your petition and you submit it to MBCN, rather than send a whole document through snail mail and all of that. So I believe those are things we can do differently.
Okay.
But
let me just come in there. Let me just interrupt you for a second, because we don't have long left, and I know my people want to call in. Let me just give you the number: 0700-993-993-993. Female only line 0146-57190. Or you can send a WhatsApp on 0809 597 5808. Do you have any questions for Dr. Olayinka for what we've discussed, etc., etc.? He's representing the NMA, especially the Lagos chapter. So please let your calls come in. Dr. Olayinka, are you ready to receive calls with me?
Yeah, if there are calls.
Trust me, they're calling. It's already going. Hello. Hello. Okay. Hello. Hello.
Yeah, hi.
Hello, good afternoon. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Larry calling from BI.
Hello, Lanre. Go ahead. What's your question, please?
Yeah, sorry. One quick concern. It's easy to go haywire on the private hospitals and all that. What are the doctors really doing to all the government hospitals who are even worse than, this happened to a prominent person and who has the money to push it. And that's why we could hear what happened to the other lady. But what happens to those citizens who have no money to push for negligence, who have practically nobody to stand for them?
Very good question. Thank you, Larry.
I know of somebody who was given an injection and she remained paralyzed for the rest of her life as a result of a negligence I just don't understand. But the mother has nobody to fight for her. The child has no mother that has somebody somewhere to fight for her. What are the enemy doing for this kind of people? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lanre. So, Dr. Olayinka, what the question was, and I think Lanre is right, and I'm so glad his call came through first. It opens up the debate somewhat. What he's saying is, what is the NMA doing for the masses who don't have money, who may not even have the education to go to the likes of the FCCPC, when they too may have suffered some form of medical malpractice or shoddy service or whatever in the hands of a doctor? What does the NMA have, in their stock trade for that, to fix that? How do they address that?
Well, actually, I empathize with that situation, and I think this is one of the things that dominated one of our recent meetings within the Lagos State branch of NMA, as to how can we help people to, of course, one is that we are talking to ourselves, that doctors need to up their game. Doctors need to respect the boundaries of the profession. They need to follow the code of medical ethics. People need to practice within the limit of their training and all of that.
Okay.
But then what we can do, which we have suggested, is to open the doors of our offices, because again, we are not the petitioner. The patient is the petitioner. But we are only saying that if you are not sure how to go about it, or you don't have the resources to go about it, you can approach the Nigerian Medical Association offices, which we have in every state capital in Nigeria, where you could be assisted on how to go about. But one thing I must say for the
please.
members of the public is that actually many a times the outcome of medical clinical services, if it doesn't translate to you getting well, I can understand why you believe that the doctor have done something wrong. But the truth of the matter is that even when the doctor have done the best for you, in fact, there are some procedures. Like I recall that I was speaking with a colleague who was telling a patient that the patient had a broken arm, which he didn't bring to the hospital on time. So the elbow has fixed. So he was looking for an orthopedic surgeon to help to break down the elbow. And the doctor told him point blank that this that you have brought to me, there are two possibilities. I can fix it, but you can have a nerve damage in the process.
Okay. Let me come
in
there.
Process, a nerve damage can happen. That nerve damage is already a foreseen outcome. But most patients will leave that hospital and they will be telling the entire public that I went to that doctor, look at what he has done to me. So sometimes I agree that we need to help people, but at the same time, that we must be sure that these are valid petitions also.
Okay, we've got calls coming in. Let me just read out the number again: 0700 993 993 993. The female only line is 0146 57190, and WhatsApp is 0809 597 5808. We have a call coming in. I've got a question for you, but I want to fit in as many calls as possible. Hello.
Good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon. Please go ahead. We don't have much time, so you've got 1 minute. This is the rapid fire round.
Thank you for this program of this afternoon.
Thank you.
I want education on this issue to the public. Things like this happen. I'm a pastor. Things like this happens, and nobody will take any action.
Mm-hmm.
For example, 3 years or 4 years ago, a child was brought to me here, and the child was vomiting blood. And I said, take him to the hospital immediately. They took him down there. And the child, the next morning, the mother came to them and said the child was already okay. He's well, playing about. They even wanted to come back with her. At the end, she came back. They said they want to give the child injection. And so they went to use her back home. They gave the first injection, about 6 injections. They gave the injection. And the child is behaving. Until the child died on the spot there again. But because we don't know that, an organization can even go to and report this kind of a case. But the doctor, the very doctor can be called upon and then explain what happened to that child.
Yes.
Couldn't take any steps.
Yes, Pastor. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much, Pastor. Dr. Olayinka, did you hear that?
It was a little bit of a struggle.
Okay. Yes, it was. It was a very faint line. But what the pastor was saying is that it would have been good. He told us about a story of an incident that happened with a child, and it would have been good for the parents, the family, to have known where to go to in order to have their questions answered. Because they wanted to know what happened and they didn't know where to go to. We have another call coming in. Hello.
Hey, Chief Mrs. Ireti Bakare.
Oh, Chief Mister, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon, Doc. Good afternoon.
Yes, Dr. Olayinka can hear you.
Dr. Olayinka, good afternoon. Look, Chief Mrs. Ireti Bakare, anytime I hear any of these medical people, I'm never happy at all. I'm telling you. The way they treated me when my wife was at loose.
Right.
On this their strike issue or no strike.
Right.
I think they save life first. The type of people we have in that profession now, they don't have pity. I'm telling you.
Oh, wow.
I lost that woman. So anytime I hear anything about doctor, medical disease, I never feel happy at all. I'm telling you.
Okay.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much, Chief Mister. Right. Okay. That was really to do with Dr. Olayinka. I know you're having struggle. We're struggling for you to hear the calls that are coming in, but that was to do with we have an my producer is telling me that we have another. Hello.
Hello. Yeah, this is Olawale Samson.
Okay. Where are you calling from, please?
I'm calling from Ogba. I'm also a medical doctor, and I know Dr. Atilola quite well.
All right. I need you to be quick. We have 4 or 5 minutes to the end of the show.
All right, please. I think it's very important. Yes, highlighted all that is needed to.
You want to give me some
the
opportunities
ICU that is closed down is done by the organization that regulates the hospital management. But what he's saying is that if you must discipline or if you want any allegation against any doctor, you go to MDCN. There must not be conflict of responsibility, and it's clear.
Okay.
This is clear. Then the second thing I want to mention is that, see, we doctors, we don't understand our own frustrations too. Most times, there is no doctor that will leave the patient in the real sense that will be happy.
Right.
It's not possible. It's not possible.
Okay.
There must be something that must have gone wrong. And, we sometimes they want us to play God. It's not easy. The responsibility is there, yes. But right from my medical school, I've been told that you save some, you lose some.
Okay.
But we must not.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Right. Dr. Olayinka, because we're close to the end of the show, I have one question for you, and then I'd like you to wrap up and leave us with some key. Oh, gosh, we have a call. Can we fit a call in? No? Yes? Yeah, we'll try and squeeze one more call in. Hello. This is the last call. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Please go ahead with your question very quickly.
Okay.
Very quickly.
I'd like to share my own personal experience.
You have 30 seconds because we're literally at the end of the show. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so what I would just say, my contribution is this negligence doesn't just come from private hospitals as well.
Okay.
Our government should help us enable that they also sensitize even the government hospitals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, Dr. Olayinka, that was another call about the government hospitals that the NMA also needs to focus, and the government need to focus on better service with the government hospital. I have a quick WhatsApp. Let me read this out. Good afternoon, Mrs. Ireti. Well, it's Miss, unless you got a husband for me. It's Ms. Ireti Bakare-Yusuf. Right. For me, listening to the conversation so far, one will doubt the competency and conscience of the NMAs. They are expected to attend the hearing first, while they register their dissatisfaction later. That is a comment from Prince in Aja. Now, Dr. Olayinka, the question that I have for you is regarding what you said earlier. You said some doctors are sometimes struck off, correct?
Yes. Absolutely.
Right. Where do we find the list of doctors that have been struck off? Because how do we know that that doctor that's been struck off by the NMA of the MDCN is now not, practicing somewhere else? And I have no idea about it. We've got 1 minute. Oh, crap. We always run out of time. Go ahead. Where do we find the list of doctors that have been struck out, or is there a list?
So like I told you earlier, personally, there are things that, like I said, there are things that the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria can do better.
Okay.
When doctors are struck out, well, by law, they cannot practice again. But I'm not sure that there is a place where you can find those names. But there should be, actually.
Thank
where
you.
Names of those with who are registered and those who have not renewed their license and those whose names have been struck out should be easily accessible. In other countries, this is possible.
Exactly. And also, can we have like a sort of star rating? So if you've had like 3 or 4 complaints about a doctor, even though they don't get struck off, can we have like, -3 star or whatever? We're running out of time. My producer is like, hurry up. I need you to wrap up. Go ahead, you wrap up. What do you want to leave us with?
I didn't come here to come and defend all doctors are fair. There
Indeed.
are things we could do better,
Mhm.
and there are things we can go in-house, both at the level of individual practitioners, at the level of NMA, and at the level of the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria. It's good that we are having this kind of conversation. It's supposed to provide us with the feel of the public so that we can know those things we can work on.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is that at the end of the day, doctors are still saving lives every day. There might be a few errors of judgment here and there, but
Okay.
the Nigerian medical practice has actually stood some test of time.
Okay.
Even despite
Thank
the
you.
bad name people have
Indeed.
wanted to give.
Indeed. So I need to ask you, will you come back? Will you come back and talk to us?
If
another
the
time.
opportunity presents itself.
Absolutely, because we want you back. We want you in the studio so we can have more conversation, because people have lots of questions. But thank you so much for educating, for enlightening us, for having that important debate, and for creating a bridge. And I think that's what this show has done. It's created a bridge now between the FCCPC and the NMA. Thank you, listeners. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Only one station gives you great talk every day.
On the show yesterday, you spoke about the tariff hike, electricity tariff hike.
Yes.
I'm hearing news today that it's being postponed till next year.
City of Lagos, did I say it yesterday? I am a prophet.
Hear the news and tell us your views.
Congratulations once again to Liverpool. Despite the disastrous outing they had tonight.
Your number one station for talk.
You know, the WHO give a guideline for organizations,
right?
Yes, to implement, to reduce the spread of coronavirus in your group, in your companies. Here in N Group, we've done
99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.